The first part is just doing quadratics, and our main focus when we did quadratics was doing factoring. And so that's what we're going to do here. Number 1 says 3x squared plus 14x plus 8. Remember, we always want it equal to 0. This is an x squared and an x problem. It's got both parts here, so we need to set this thing equal to 0 like I have it. If there was something they all had in common, then we would try to factor that out. Is there anything that all three parts have in common? No, they all don't have an x, and I all can't divide a 3 out. So then, good. And so because I have a number in front here, and I can't just do normal factoring, we are going to do borrow and payback. So remember what that means. We can't just factor it when there's a 3 in front. We got to multiply by 3. So we're going to get this problem right here. X squared plus 14x plus 24. We borrowed that 3 and we multiplied it in. Now that we've done it, we are just factoring. So now all we need to do is come up with two numbers that multiply to get 24, like 2 and 12, 6 and 4, 8 and 3, 24 and 1. Am I missing one? I think that's it. Out of one of those combinations, one of them needs to add to get me 14. Which one of those combinations is going to add to get me 14? 12 and 2. I agree with that. 12 and 2. I need to get a positive 14. So it's a positive 12 and a positive 2. That is factored. But that is not what I need to do here. It says, that's not it. What else do I still need to do now that I've factored this thing? Pay back. We're going to make it equal to 0, but not yet, because we got to pay it back. This is the thing. We were really good at this during this chapter, but we always kind of forget to pay back. You borrowed that 3. You multiplied by 3 earlier. So to get rid of that, we then got to take both answers and divide by 3. So 12 over 3 is 4. And this one's just 2/3. Technically, you could change that to be a factor, but I don't really want to do anything with it, because all I need left to do with this thing is what Muhammad just said there, which is set them equal to 0. I factored it. I reduced 12 over 3 to get me 4. I can't reduce 2/3, which is fine, but I'm setting them equal to 0. So all I need to do to finish here is change my signs. X is negative 4, and X is negative 2/3. So number 2 and 3 were some more factoring. Number 4 is a pretty easy one. Let's look at number 5. This looks very, very similar to what we just did in that last chapter. Yeah, all we've got is we've got this minus that. And so when we have a minus sign in front of that set of parentheses, what do I always got to do with that minus sign? Distribute that thing over. We did a very similar problem on that last quiz. So over here, nothing changes. Negative 18x to the 4th plus 7x squared minus 14. Nothing changes there. But since this is a minus sign, I'm distributing it. I'm changing all those signs. So it's going to be a positive 13x cubed, a negative 5x squared, and a positive 13x. Now that we've done that aspect, go ahead and try and combine like terms on your own, please. We're looking to combine like terms. Here's an x to the 4th. There's no other x to the 4th, so that one's good. Here's an x cubed. There's no other x cubed, so that one's good. Here is a x squared. It's the only one. Here's an x. Here's an x. Oh, no. Oh, I wrote that one wrong. My fault. Let me try that again. This was a negative 5x squared. Sorry. So I can combine that one with this one. So 7x squared and a negative 5x squared would have gotten me a 2x squared. And then I would have had that left over and that left over, plus 13x minus 14. Sorry. Just a big old string of things. We're combining like terms. Be careful and make sure you write it down correctly. I made a mistake that a lot of you would normally make, which is just copying something wrong. Don't do that. Questions on 5? Not the world's hardest problem, but just making sure you're paying attention. Number 6, let's do 6b. 6a is just distributing. I'm not too worried about that one. But let's look at 6b. So on 6b, I've got this binomial right here, x plus 6, and that trinomial, 3x cubed plus 7x minus 8. All it is distributing. Okay, who cares that there's a 2 and a 3? It's just distributing. So I am taking each part and multiplying it through. So if I started here with this x, I've asked what would I get if I took x times 3x cubed. 3x to the fourth, and then you're taking x times 7x. Yep. And x times negative 8. Good. That's all she's doing. She's just taking that x and multiplying it by each part. Once she's multiplied the x times everything, she's going to do it again, but this time with the 6. So if I'm taking 6 times 3x cubed, that gets me 18x cubed. And this is going to kind of, so if I were to put this down below, normally we like to stack them because that makes it nice and neat. I don't have an x cubed column down here, right? So I'm just going to put it on the end. I like stacking them on top of each other, but I don't have an x cubed, so I'm just going to tag it on the end even though it's not as pretty. And then I'm going to go 6 times 7x, so that would be 42x. And then 6 times negative 8 would be negative 42. No, negative 48, sorry. Negative 48. It's just a big string of numbers. It's pretty much just like the last problem. Now that I've multiplied, now that I've done my foiling, it's just a matter of combining like terms. So whatever's the same, I'm going to combine those together. So in this case, I've got 3x to the fourth, 18x cubed, 7x squared, negative 8x plus a 42x would get me negative 34. Oh no, positive 34x minus 48. Lots of fun, but just multiplying that whole thing out, looking for what they had in common and combining those like terms. Questions on 6b? Okay. 8. So this is one you might have forgotten how to do, so let's remind you of what you're doing here. Given that x plus 3 is a factor, it is not a question. X plus 3 works. Find all the other zeros of this polynomial right here. Show me with your fingers how many zeros does that polynomial right there have? How many zeros does that polynomial have? Remember, you're looking at the biggest exponent. Since it's an x cubed polynomial, there's 3. Because of this right here, there's going to be 3 zeros, 3 roots, 3 x-intercepts, 3 solutions. All those words mean the same. There's 3 answers. X plus 3 is a factor, and we got to find the other ones. So we're not good at factoring an x cubed problem, but what we are good at is doing synthetic division. That's what we're going to do here, synthetic division. Remember what we write across the top here. Across the top, we're writing the leading coefficients, so it's 1x cubed, 9x squared, 23x, and then 15. Then I'm going to put 3 in the box up here. Give me a thumbs up if you think I should put a positive 3 in the box. Give me a thumbs down if you think I should put a negative 3 in the box. Negative 3. Why are we going to put negative 3? Somebody let me know. It's written with x. So if it's written with x, we've got to set it equal to 0 still. So we're going to change the sign and make it a negative number. If it just said 2 is a 0, you just put 2 in the box. But if it's written with x, like always, we got to set it equal to 0 and solve. Cool, that's it. Then we're doing synthetic. See if you can kind of remember what to do without me, but it wasn't tough. You take that first number and you drop it straight down. And then when it's on bottom, you multiply by whatever's in the box. So in this case, I'm taking negative 3 times 1 to get negative 3. And then when they're stacked, I add them. 9 minus 3 is 6. It's on bottom, so I'm multiplying again. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. They're stacked, so I add them. 23 minus 18 would be 5. It's on bottom, so I multiply. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. What should I have gotten here at the end? 0. It wasn't a question. It is a factor. So I knew no matter what, I was going to get 0 in the end. If I wouldn't have gotten 0, I would have been nervous. Okay, because I wouldn't have been nervous. I would have been wrong. I would have gone back and fixed it because I know that in the end, this problem, because it told me it is a 0, it should have worked. It should have gotten 0 there, and it did. That wasn't the question, though. The question was to find all of the other roots, all of the other zeros. So we did that. We got 0, and then I'm left with this thing right here, 165. What does that 165 mean here? I got a factor. What does it mean, though? Good. It was an x cubed problem. We just took one of those answers away. And so how many answers does this thing down here have? It's got 2 more because it was cubed. I got one rid of it. This one is a 1x squared. And then I've said the next one is a plus 6x. And that 5 is a plus 5. Remember, we just go one less than whatever we started with. We had an x cubed, so now it's an x squared, and I count down. From there, we are going to factor. Go ahead and factor that without me. We're looking for 2 numbers to get me 5. The only combination is 5 and 1, so it is x plus 5 and x plus 1. Those 2 numbers multiply together to get 5, and 5 plus 1 add to get me 6. So in the end, my roots, my zeros, my x-intercepts are x is equal to negative 3, negative 5, and negative 1. Change those signs. Finding all the zeros. A little bit longer problem, but not one we were awful at the time. All right. Next portion. We just did this the other day on our test. We weren't awful at some of them. 9 and 10 we were surprisingly not great at, though, and it makes me a little bit sad inside. Let's look at them a little bit more and make sure we can do them. 16 to the negative 3/4. Again, what does a negative exponent do to your problem? Flip what? The whole thing. It's not the 3/4 that changes. The negative just takes the whole thing and puts it on bottom. So it's 1 over 16 to the 3/4. If you just type in 16 to the 3/4 power into your calculator, it'll work. Okay, but let's do it the longer way. The 4 means the root. It's on bottom. It goes in the root. It goes in front of the radical. And then I'm going to take that number and cube it. So what number, when I raise it to the 4th power, would get me 16 here? So 4th power, here's the 4th power row. Which one gets me 16? 2. And then I'm going to have to take 2 and cube it still. So 2 cubed would get me 8. My answer is 1 over 8. 1 over 8. Try number 10 and get an answer there. And then once you're done with number 10, try number 15. Number 15, we started pretty good on it always, and we just did a weird thing at the end. Try 2, 10, and 15 here and see if you can get those 2 answers. 125 to the 2/3 power. So that is like 125 with the 3rd root, and I'm going to take that number and square it. There's no negative, so I don't make it a fraction. The 3rd root of 125 means what number, when I raise it to the 3rd power, gets me 125? That would get me 5. And then I would take 5 and square it, which obviously is 25. That's what I'm looking for there. Again, that is also something you can just type right into your calculator and get an answer. On number 15 on the test, we did a decent job. Okay, but we always kind of did the wrong thing at the end. I've got y to the 4/5 and y to the 1/2. I've got to do something with my exponents. It's being divided. What do I need to do with my exponents? I need to subtract. Very often on our test, you guys added them. I need to subtract my 2 exponents. So I've got 4/5 minus 1/2. Well, I can't do 4/5 minus 1/2 because I need common denominators. So I'm going to rewrite both fractions to have a common denominator. What denominator do I want with 5 and 2? 10. Over here to get 10, I got to take that 5 times 2. So that's the same thing I got to do on top. I got to take the 4 times 2 to get me 8. Over here, I've got 1/2 and 10. So to get 2, I multiply that by 5 to get me 10. That's the same thing I got to do on top. 1 times 5 gets me 5. Which one is bigger, 8/10 or 5/10? 8/10. So the one on top, the y on top is the one that's bigger. That's the one I'm going to keep. So the y is going to stay on top and not on bottom. Then I need to take 8/10 minus 5/10, which would get me 3/10. That's the answer I'm looking for on that one. Y to the 3/10 power. Number 17, just do this one really fast. We're getting y by x by itself. We're doing order of operations in reverse. Joshua, what am I going to do first on 17? Subtract 3, 2x squared equals 50. Then what? Yep, and then divide. Good. He did adding, subtracting. Then he did multiplying or dividing. Divide by 2. Then he messes with exponents. And a lot of us got really close to the right answer. How many answers is this thing going to have? 2. It's squared. Anytime it's squared, it means 2 answers. Okay, a lot of us got one of the right answers, but not both of them. We square root both sides. The square root of 2. I'm sorry, x squared square rooted is x. I'm going to square root 25 and get me 5. And positive or negative 5. 5 and negative 5, or plus or minus 5. A lot of you on the test with x squared equals 36. A lot of you told me just 6. Next one. 4th root of 3x minus 2. I want to get x by itself. What'd you do first here? Bridget, what do I need to do to get rid of that 4th root? Good. Put a 4 here and on the other side. Some of you would just do it to one side. You knew that it was the 4th power, but you only did it to one side. Bridget said do it to both sides here. 3x minus 2 equals 2 to the 4th power. 2 to the 4th power is 16. Once you've done that, it's easy. I'm just going to add some numbers in here. Add 2. 3x equals 18. Divide by 3, divide by 3. X is 6. It does ask us to check for extraneous solutions. Is 6 going to work when you plug it back in? Yeah. The only time it wouldn't have worked is if this would have been a negative 2 right there. If I would take a negative number to an even power, then it wouldn't have worked. If you don't believe me, plug 6 back in, but it does work there. Questions with 17 or 18? All right, one more. Let's do number 20. Number 20 says g of f of x. G of f of x there. Tavon, when I want to do g of f of x like that, which equation am I starting with? Say again, I'm sorry. I'm plugging in f into g. He's taking this thing right here, and it's going right there. When it says f of x right there, it means g, f of x, I know what that is. It's this thing, x squared minus 2. That's what that means, g of f of x. It means g of, instead of f, we're going to write what it is, x squared minus 2. So where there is normally an x, it's no longer an x. Now it's that x squared minus 2. We are taking that thing and putting it into the g equation for where x was. So our problem is going to look like this, 2 something plus 3. And where that x was, we're going to plug in something new. This time we're plugging in x squared minus 2, the f problem. Then all I got to do is simplify. Distribute that 2. And then combine like terms. There's my answer. That, combined with what we did yesterday, is the entire final. Okay? There's some problems we didn't do, but most of the ones, if we didn't cover them, they were very similar to another one we tried. All right? So it's up to you to kind of make sure you're ready. If you went through that and you were pretty good, fine. But we got some time. Monday we'll review the whole period. Tuesday we'll review the whole period. Wednesday we'll review the whole period. Do not lose these papers. Okay, these papers are going to tell you a whole lot of stuff. We still got 8 minutes in here right now. You're not done. Okay, you're going to go through and do some of those problems that we didn't do in class today. Okay, so for 8 more minutes, you're finding whatever problem we didn't get a chance to do today and attempt that now to make sure you're getting anything better. I'm just